Now, as the mission about how the information has to be shared, at least as fast as the binary machine does by even the connection of wireless having EM wave to convey the information on the wave and have a reception that is a fucking magic. And with the line to line cable having optic fiber cable made of glass and reflecting inside the tube goes on. Well, in the birth of computer, the binary machine, in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the launch of official computer in 1990s. For that time, a period then, it was when it was made by a simple transistor for having a differentiator 0 to 1. It was just a calculator. No information has been shared. No information has been stored onto it. There was no memory to store. It was just calculator to have an input and make a protocol and make an output. That was just all. But when the one made a memory, really is a memory, like a cell block, it was possible to store that informations was made input, but not only having an output, but just storing. Yeah. And even having a recall from having a command to the memory and use that memory to use a resource to compute. There was just a genius. Yeah. That memory was made possible for computing. Not only the knowledge was belonged to the human, but also when human made an input for providing to a computer a knowledge to remember, and when the computer goes to store that input knowledge was made by an intention to, hey, remember this by human to the memory of computer, the computer has a tantamount, same knowledge as human had. Now, that was just very good. But when we see or called an artificial intelligence, that intelligence is leaping from a simple calculator for what had been, but a human goes have an input on that calculator to learn something, to make an enhanced protocol, a software, to learn more densely on the world of knowledge that hadn't been explored yet, which is made by possible for connecting informations more, which is hard to human, but as long as the informations are stored in the memory of computer in accurate form, the computer can just call it up and connect it up and make it up. Now it is just very, by that accurate logic structure, it is very easy to computer, no strive to, no having an effort to understand, or it just goes automatically computed. On that process, artificial intelligence can learn. Now, what I think about every time is that learner has to learn independently, to explore on its own. It has to have a body. Ever heard of Ultron? Ever heard of Vision in Marvel movies. Ultron realized from controlling a network of internet doesn't really make any new learning because it has to have a body to explore the world with that. But artificial intelligence doesn't have any body. The man, even though it is a very stupid man, can go outside and have an experience for what hadn't been experienced by every fucking entire human fucking race. Okay? Because it has an independent body that can move around, operate around on itself. Execution decision is made by itself. And exploring the world hadn't been explored. But artificial intelligence doesn't have any. Meaning, it doesn't have any independent knowledge, nor when the information is not stored in the memory by the human, which is a sole learner on the earth. It doesn't have any to learn from, okay? There is no source to learn from, okay? For that, it really has to have a knowledge, even though it cannot have a learning. It cannot make a learning. It cannot make a knowledge because it doesn't have any body, which means it is made possible by the logic, by the knowledge that was made input by human, explored by human to the binary code of memory from which the learning for connecting is made. Okay? So from that, artificial fucking intelligence can learn because there is a previous knowledge made by human, input by human. Okay? Artificial intelligence cannot learn for its independent capability because it has no capability but to calculate on the input upon the command. A command made by independent learner who has a real one and only source of learning, they can be shared to the calculator to learn from. So it has to have a source which is stored all in memory called data center. For that space, what fills that space is a chip, a memory chip and calculator. Memory chip containing all the knowledges the human ever had from the birth of internet, from the birth of computer. As the internet comes in, having a cable on it, the sharing pace, the velocity has been really accelerated. And making a storage made of binary code, memory, and internet, that is the primary tool to learn for the intelligence, artificial intelligence. Its pathway for sharing informations as a conduit, as a direct connect cable to the other memory is a fiber optic cable. There are around the globe and around the real world a lot of information stored in the memory. And for the memory to connect, like California to India, China to Canada, is made by possible. In a short distance, Wi-Fi. But in a long distance, a direct cable. Artificial intelligence, without both of which, memory and cable, it cannot learn. Now human, when the one makes an operator, a learner, having a body and a brain, a processor, but how the knowledges that have been made for real 5,000 of years of worth from the invention of civilization to this time of period, for that accumulated vast amount of knowledge upon which and from which the knowledge for making this very fucking body and brain was made possible. It was not made by my own, someone's own real experience, but it was the collective knowledge for billions of other experiences to be converged. Okay? It was not made by neither of soul existence. So, how the newly created body and brain, that creature, a learner, can be shared for all of these, what we learned from. We learned from by having a conversation, by it is just either conversation or seeing, or yeah, conversation is made possible by hearing, the capability of hearing, which is one-to-one direct conversation, or having a lecture in the academy, in any university, any education institution, which can be converted into not offline but to online, and seeing by visual, reading books, seeing photos, seeing videos. It was all made by possible by the almost entirely by the capability of seeing the fucking two eyes of vision and hearing, that sensing, that possibility of sensor to source from the external source of world of informations and to convert into your unit of computing and make a knowledge by connecting new dots in your brain. That is the exact process of how the knowledge for creating such an incredible creature was made possible. So, but in the another world, a world of binary computer, it learns exponentially, a pace that is by that essential logic cannot be compared to human. Its velocities vary, and now even this fucking time in life, in any given moment, computer learns faster and faster than ever, accelerating, which had already surpassed that of human. So that is possible by the even the source of learning was made by human, but but it was ultimately input to the memory and made possible by the connection of optic fiber or Wi-Fi. So the computer really has, first, accurate storage. Number two, the cable to connect those. Now, how the newly created learner can really source it out. Now, when it has, well, even though one can make and imagine the better creatures for calculating and operating, but those of simple, free on flaw, free of error, accurate machine, simple machines will have always been used, will be used. So it is imperative to use those machines, and when it is possible to connect those more organic form. Now, in the companies like Neuralink, it imagines for the integration, not integration, but just connection on its own body by having a memory and stimulation. Well, all creatures of calculator will use an electricity because the atom contains an electron and it has an electricity is like a basic form of universe. So you will use and it will be possible because it uses electricity is a gigantic revolution for using an electricity as guiding electricity into those differentiating paths to calculate. The brain uses electricity. Computer, the binary code, uses electricity, and that energy, basic form, has to be compatible. Now, the computer for those simple machine, when the one is to record something, it is also possible to share to the more higher existence of knowledge, but it is very, very imperative to use such diverse tools of which the binary machine really acts. Now, is a 2-bit or 3-bit, 4-bit, quaternary, ternary, trinary, but it will advance, and it will advance. It is made in current just a binary machine because the human has no ability to advance to 3, 4, 5 differentiators to make a map of calculation. So it will always be used, and it can use an electromagnetic wave which goes in the velocity of light speed, literally light speed, and is stored perfect, calculated in perfect, and it has no fallibility, no error. It is just a perfect machine. Yeah. So it will be used forever. For that kind of extra machine has to be used forever for learning. Now, for that, it really has to be compatible, integrated, really has to be made. Imagine a creature having a capability that can emit by making a what do you call the AC/DC converting, having an EM wave on its preset frequency to share informations. No need to use a cell phone like that. And have a receiver also. And that receiver goes converted for that information conveyed by the wave, the frequency of information converted to the unit of brain. Well, really it has to, because not only is the computer a real machine, but also the action of learning, operating is made by not a computer who don't have a body, but a operator who has a body, which is a real source of learning. But it can really be easily shared from the use of EM wave. From the use of EM wave. That is a real job. Unless when the computer learns, it has to go physically. Like you imagine riding a bus, riding a mobility to go to the center of knowledge, to have a core and connect cable by cable. No. When it is just in a few kilometers, it doesn't matter, but 1,000 kilometers it has to go. Even tens of thousand kilometers and interstellar, interplanetary. It has to go by physical, but we do have a bloody velocity of EM wave for conveying, as long as it can convey an information onto it. Oh, that's a real fucking imagination, but human really does it right now. We can use that as a medium of communication. Communication, now we do as vibrating the molecule of air for having a differentiator, as computer does by the use of teeth, tongue, and your vocal organ to make a differentiator, and so does the computer. But also this goes as a velocity of sound is very low and goes as other EM wave does, unless it is cable reinforced. It does disappear by the hindrance of atmosphere. Well, in the universe, in the space, it doesn't have any to hinder. But so EM wave has to really be used, okay, in the communication between and among of all those executors to share. Now it is very imperative. So having a generator and receiver for those signal is fucking imperative. And as a concept of RAM, the short-term memory has to be in existence because it has a capacity when the information flows inundatingly. And when the information flows, oh no, it has to assume the volatility by the external, like RAM-like. What would be? It is just a fucking your memory, like SSD. It's just SSD. SSD like storage has to be integrated in the machine of operator. It really has to be, okay? So for that, integration of no. It can be just simple external device to the brain that is not very organically connected, or by the combination of molecules which is chemically organic to your body, to your brain. From that can even make a generator from the combination of molecule which is chemically identical, chemically compatible, really compatible, like a compatible software, compatible code. Generator and receiver can really be made. It is your natural ability to communicate with the medium of electromagnetic wave on your body itself. Oh, imagine that. And it really has to share a RAM-like, SSD-like storage connected onto it to store briefly for that communicated knowledges. It really has to use medium. And we like having this cell phone recording iPhone, this recording cell phone goes to like a call to another, like having different location, a distance of 10 kilometer, 100 kilometer, even in other countries, 1,000 and tens of thousands of kilometers around the globe. Without the cell tower, which is connected by loss-free, fail-free, error-free cable connected to the data center, converting that signal and connecting that signal to the supposed area where the position of holder of cell phone having a nearest proximity to its cell tower and send a signal to that route where the cell tower having a nearest proximity of the location of cell phone is located. Send that signal, not the wireless, but a real ground or under the sea cable. From the cable, the cell tower really gets its signal from the data center for that signal and have a proximity to just locate wirelessly. So when you think about having 5,000 kilometers of communication, you have a phone, and the other 5,000 kilometer distance, the other one have a phone. But in wireless communication, it cannot happen. In space, where it is virtually, really virtually vacuum, meaning having no hindrance because there is no atom, no really material matters to exist which can act to hinder from connecting the EM wave signal. But in the Earth or other planets or other any fucking planets where matters, where atoms do exist, the EM wave cannot go any further for its frequency, depend on its frequency, meaning the strength of connection. That is the reason of why we now human race, use a optic fiber cable, a direct linkage of cable, and you use like in a government facility, a military facility, they use a underground direct line. Unless that underground direct cable for connecting the one-to-one no fallibility phone line, we call like hotline, unless it is caught on the ground, under the ground, it really goes very well and no fallibility because there is a concrete cable that connects in between those phones. Okay? But in the wireless communication, when you like it's really is called cell phone, okay? The origination of phone is just to not having a messenger, not having an internet search. It was just a communication and having a cell tower by grid, a lattice-like form, and deploying that cell tower intermittently of the area, designated area. And when the one goes by cell phone to emit a signal, and the cell tower nearest tower receives it and go by the underground cable or overground cable to connect the main data center and convert and connect that signal to the designated proposed area, proposed receiver destination. Okay, destination, and it reaches to the nearest cell tower where the location of destination is in nearest proximity. It goes on that cell tower where it has the nearest distance. It is very important, nearest distance. Well, it's because, as just said, having a 5,000 kilometer or 10,000 kilometer, even 100 kilometer connection by wireless, it is hindered unless it is space having where there is no matter to hinder. So it is not possible unless having 1 kilometer where the signal can be reached without having much loss. Okay. Well, that is a reason of why walkie-talkie, that radio cannot be successfully used unless it uses a cable, a strong, perfect cable to convey that information for long distance. the walkie-talkie doesn't have a real success of its receiving rate because it goes by air, its medium of communication. That EM wave passing through the air, it is a hindrance. That is the reason of why the zik zik zik, the statics of on the radio when it receives happen because it doesn't utilize the perfect cable. So when the one calls from US to China and Greenland to Arctic, it is possible with no loss of data. Perfect voice because it is not conveyed by the air. It is conveyed almost 99.99 as the distances go longer. The the number of 9 goes added onto the 99.99. Of that percent, virtually all 100% is used by the perfect optic cable. No air by air, okay? So, it really is possible by the perfect connection, okay? So, utilizing the EM wave on the communication between another executor, a learner, it really has to, not a direct connection to EM wave. But hey, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi is essentially the same thing. Another AirDrop, essentially the same thing, just using a different frequency, not to hinder on each other. But it is possible. When you make a Bluetooth in 5 meters range, 3 meters range, it goes perfectly well because its loss rate is very limited. Having a short distance, meaning having a less amount of hindrance by the air. And when it fails, it can just send again because it is possible to send again and receive again. Okay? But having a Bluetooth, Wi-Fi in the 20 meters of range, it goes slow down. And 30 meters of range, it goes slow down. And even having a wall between that distance, it really does not work because it cannot penetrate. Even if it can penetrate, having a 3 wall, not 1 wall, 3 walls, no. It is not possible because there is a obstacle, hindrance on that journey of conveying information. So, you suppose there are 2 or 3 executors having a distance not 5 meters but 5 kilometers, 50 kilometers between them. And among them, the communication goes on. But as we've just seen, unless it is a space where there is no matter to hinder onto it, it goes make a loss. So the cell tower in the medium, which is a medium tower, and the core center for converting and connecting as data center, and the nearest cell tower, where is the closest to the destination, it goes to that. So having a learner, 2 cell tower, 2 data center, 2 cell tower, 2 the learner, okay? That medium is made. It only goes by wireless, and cable-less, meaning having a short distance to the location of learner to the cell tower is only wireless because it is possible. So the density of cell tower for intermittently deployed cell towers on any given area, its density goes up. So not only the velocity of communication, pace of communication, but the perfecy, the consummacy of its data conveyed, it goes very close to the 100% rate. Okay, the less going down from the 100%. So it is just a wireless that accounts for just short distance of entire process communication. And as I've just said, over 99% And when distance goes longer, the added 9 goes onto it, is made by the cable, not wireless but wire itself. Really perfect glass wire. Reflects and no loss of conveyed data makes a perfect communication possible. So, the data center converting EM wave, a computer that calculates as a head of operation, and the cable will always be used. Hundreds of thousands of years later, even the civilization goes very advanced, it will always be used because the information has to be shared with its fastest medium, like light. So, the to the learner, it has to use EM wave as a medium of communication for conveying the information onto the frequency, and emitting signal and receiver has to be installed on its organic device, organic function on its brain, on its operation. It has to. Okay. Communication has its supremacy when its medium for conveying information is very fast. So, the supremacy of communication, the importance and priority for the medium of communication depends on, by its logic, for the consummacy, the perfeccy at a rate of communication, accuracy of conveying information, and number two, its fastness, its velocity for communicating. Selecting a medium of communication and its for priority for selecting supremacy is made by the accuracy of communication and the fastness, velocity of communication. On top of it is the EM wave, which is used by now, okay? It really is used, okay? EM wave. It will always be used. And go back to the artificial intelligence. Their intelligence can learn because there is a communication. As I've just said, a perfect cable of communicating line. Hot line. It really is a hot line. And there's a memory, okay? When the newly created learner learns the information, unfortunately, where the NVIDIA and AMD data center CPUs, GPUs, and APUs for what PUs are using, that exact same mechanism for sourcing from the cable. 미치겠다, 씨발. Sourcing from the cable and storing it to memory and learn from the conversion of its binary code to the real computing unit has to be made. It is using the same exact track record of computer where in times there was no storage, there was no memory stored. It was just a calculator, but the learning of modern, like this 2025 year of 2025, having a gigantic pace of learning by GPU, CPU, all those processors is made possible because there is one communication that goes lightning speed, really light speed, literally. Number two, there's a memory stored onto it, which was made by possible because humans had made an input to their storage, to their memory, okay? They even made a cable to do that, okay? To their storage, okay? So when new learner comes in, it has to learn as exactly computer learns and calculates, okay? That binary code whose learning is possible by that memory which was made input by human. So when learn new comes in, the computer, old computer, binary computer uses that communicating, processing memory capability to the new learner, making a direct cable to cable, okay? And transfer its knowledge where by the new advanced structure of logic, organizing informations to create dots of applications for knowledge is highly developed, okay? So, in conclusion, as a result, the new learner has to receive the information which was learned from the 5,000s of years of human learning experience, that history of all knowledges from the computer, not human, from the computer. The computer has its vast amount of knowledge and which is transferable with its lightning fast form. On its velocity, new learner gets its information out of it. And its processing capability for GPU, it is imperative to do that. And for that, what we call GPU, the juxtapositional processor, really has to be integrated to the brain of new learner. It is not accepting the limitation because it has to be. It is not accepting the limitation because it has to be. The GPU, for its architecture, what we call, for that immense a capability of calculation that makes the concurrent calculation possible, that architecture does. Okay? So, not only the processor and communication on the brain, whether that be binary or trinary, quaternary code, it will be used not only as a first stage of learning from being transferred by the knowledge of human race, having a 5,000 of years of knowledge is transferred at the initial pace of organizing and connecting and starting the learning process. Upon that accumulated knowledge, which is possible by connecting direct cable, communicating from the computer to the new learner. And also, when a production of learner is mega produced, like producing a factory product, producing other kind of machine, producing printing a book, producing a snack, it really goes fast by its automated process, and the exact same logic with that. When new learner is made from that process to immensely produce that same exact copy of learning, and whose knowledge is updated to up to date, always. For that, whose communication for I learned this, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this, by each of those different learners has to be shared by the medium of EM wave. The communication medium goes by EM wave, which means not only as a first stage for being transferred the accumulated knowledge by human to start new connections from that, upon which But also, after that initial stage of being transferred and making new knowledges from that point, the EM wave, as it was being transferred by a computer, will always be as exactly same method will be used. Exactly same. Among the learners, you will be used as a first stage of information being transferred, and when it creates a new knowledge upon which the new knowledge will be shared as exact same method. So the receiver, transponder, transformer, emitting the signal and receiving the signal, their capability for EM wave as a medium has to be integrated on the brain of executor unless it really doesn't have any better capability than this age of computer. Okay? Really it has to integrate. And, well, replicating in exact same form for what has been accumulated for its up-to-date knowledge to the for making and installing to the learner, it really goes. Okay, so that manufacturing capability for combining molecules in the exact same form of knowledge as juxtapositional execution, like tens of thousands, billions of trillions of units, like your factory of making that executor produces trillions of counts of that exact same one. And when it goes dispersed to learn something of the new world, and its learning data is not made by offline, not riding a bus, but it goes by electromagnetic wave. Its medium is the highest, fastest, so it really is used. Making a factory that produces the exact combination of molecules and a body, really a body. 발생학이라고 하지, right? We now call from the combination of semen, 정자를 영어로 뭐라고 하냐? And the egg of woman, it integrates and shares its DNA and makes the production of human body. Oh, bloody fucking it is even possible! Now, you learn that and make a new one. And for that very same method, really. Now, the blueprinting cannot be called DNA, but it will be called with another name, but its essence is really very, very similar to the previous one. And it is made and factory to produce the body and brain, and whose information is not shared by offline cable to cable, but using a cell tower, using a data center, which is just facilitated by another kind of machine. And the executor learner has in its brain the receiver and emitter for communicating the EM wave as a communication medium. It is, okay? For in summary, the newly made learner is sourced from the 5,000 of years of human knowledge, accumulated knowledge by the computer. with a cable will be optic fiber or enhanced cable, but really it's a sense it's just a cable for communicating. And that knowledge is transferred from that computer to the new learner. Has a emitter and receiver transponding. Respond, transpond. And when the production of juxtapositionally executed learning for its brain and body is manufactured in the factory, that body is dispersed around, making differentiated learning in each of each. And that newly acquired processed learning is shared by the medium of EM wave. Okay? Not only the EM wave as a medium of communication is used for the initial stage of learning being transferred for that thousands of years of human accumulated knowledge, but also for initiating new learning, that exactly same method will be used for communicating. 어쩌겠어, 씨발, 그게 가장 훌륭한데. So, oh bloody. What else? There is nothing. It will be used. It is not of your defeat. It is not about accepting the fucking limitation. It is but because that has the fastest medium of communication. Ah! Really? It is. So, you just apply it. Thanks to the previous development made by the egregious and ignoble and bloody ingenious human, the development for such creating the machine is possible by that. Now, from seeing the image, the real cat, how can the learner perceive it as a cat? It is not only a perception that matters, and it is about the analyzation subsequently that has to be made to not only perceive. Perceiving is just a seeing. You can't see the book, you can't see the mountain, but you really have to know that is a fucking mountain. Anyone can see, but it has to be analyzed. Well, how that? You just simply apply the fucking logic for what criterion has to be made, applied, to connect, to calculate what the fucking object is. Anyone can see the image of mountain, but it can only be seen if there is no analysis around it. Seeing a mountain, but it doesn't know it is anything or nothing. Mountain, but it has to be a mountain. Seeing a mountain, that it has to be analyzed. It has a shape, like an edged shape, and having an elevation, and is distinguished from the image of sky, light blue sky, and it's evergreen, verdant trees. There is a mount, okay, composed by dirt, a mount on which tree and other green boys grows, and it has an elevation by the existence of mount. From only being seen in a human eye, it's the everything, whether a something is a mountain or not. Distinguishing from the sky and the green boys, having it spread like a chain, having an elevation, Yes, it is a mountain. when it is just theoretically, when the new information as mountain coming in, how the one codifies it, since there is no analysis but a pure perception, mere observation, it cannot be codified unless it is analyzed. And then how to analyze? Maybe I think it is about more initiative one, not passive one. What we think is a passive one. Our mechanism is to perceive it and mobilize the tools of mathematics and sciences to discern it. When being a mountain, its color, its elevation, its size, its shape, okay, its vision. It's just about mathematics and science. By that currently analyzed data, you search a match, and there is a common data about the mountain, you match it and perceive it. It is our mechanism, but when the brain comes in, since either way, the image of mountain has to be analyzed to be perceived as such, that it has to be in in our brain. I think the mechanism is a proactive manner, not a passive manner. It's just reverse, meaning you have a actively perceiving, actively computing brain. 아닌 것 같은데. When the image of mountain comes in, either fucking way has to be analyzed. Now, perceiving, that word just literally means just seeing. It has to be codified from the data. It has to be given the specific combination of molecules as such. You proactively search, not after that information is analyzed, but your brain before being analyzed and after, as soon as information comes in, you literally find. But the criterion for finding is that calculation, either way, being passive or proactive. The process of calculating as to differentiate from relevant data to the irrelevant ones that must not connected. Meaning, if you say there is an image of mountain that is perceived, but as to analyze that, your brain mobilizes all data and find a match, not being searched, but you search. What's the difference? And you go compute. Finding that is a mountain, because your data, pre-existing data for those criterion that can identify what the fucking mountain is, that are same, that are that are those are analyzed by the same criterion. It is in grouped, cohortized by the name of your pre-existing notion. Fucking mountain. You see an image of cat, you know its general size, shape, color, position of eye, position of tail, count of leg, position of head, how the skin is constituted, is a fur, and it's even five sticks of toe, and its average weight. You do know for what criterions are mobilized, meaning what is the essence of cat, of being a cat. You see an image of fucking cat, and as to ascertain that it is a cat, mathematical tools has to be mobilized to analyze, and that when it comes in, it is dissected for its weight, color, texture, average length and width, for its anatomical position, as to constitutes its operating machine, the body of cat. Yeah. What are the essence for comprising the cat? Or literally, and by the logic, as to perceive something as something, that something has to have a proprietary logic, proprietary attribute that can't be differentiated from that to the all others. It has a certain unique position. As to do that, it has its own unique analysis tool sets. As to perceive a cat as a cat, not just fucking image that can and cannot perceive from nothing to anything. It has no meaning but to exactly pinpoint out that object, that being an object, and to confirm it. What the fuck can it just? The tools for analyzing a certain object has to be mobilized onto that. What else would that fucking be? If a cat goes heavyweight and having a 40 kilos of weight and 100 kilos of weight, and its leg goes 1 meter and fucking 2 meters, and its eye goes 3 counts and 4 counts, and its tail has 9 tails, and fucking its fur is a rainbow fucking color. You cannot understand it as a cat. It's just exotic, fucking exotic boy. Okay? So, what defines as a fucking dictionary for an object being a cat? Object to be a cat, it has to be a cat for what? A question goes, what constitutes that object? That being a cat. So, when a mountain, its color goes, its color goes, its color can go by the snow, white, by the fire, black, by the pigment, yellow, and red, and brown, and decolored green. And it can be orange. Okay, when the what color can it make? When the color of tree for those mountains are colored by a deep blue or deep purple, can you? Okay, when the height of tree goes 100 fucking meter and 1 kilometer, and the mount goes not 1 kilometer but 12 kilometer, okay? 50% higher than the Everest. And for the human eye, that is all to discern. So, the criterion for discerning, ascertaining whether that being a or not, it has to be, that calculation has to be mobilized. Now, when you perceive a cat, you immediately measure a size of a cat. Okay? Oh, it has 30 centimeters of height. And when it stands up, like a human bipedal, its height can be 80 centimeter or 70 centimeter, but not generally exceeds 1 fucking meter. And its fur spans from having a black dots or pure white or pure black, and it can have a stripe consist of brown. Even it can dye, like a dyeing human hair to be a yellow or a green, and there is an eye, not 3, not 4, but 2. It has a nose and it has a mustache. What do you call the equilibrium maker mustache? For 4 or 5 counts, symmetrically located as the point by the point of its nose, and it has an ear. It is a triangular shape. It has an ear. So you immediately find out its height, its average size from X, Y, Z axis, and you measure its approximate weight. You are calculating on that object too, and as soon as the calculation is done, that image for its data matches to your previous knowledge as being a fucking cat. So. And seeing the texture of its skin as being fur. So that is no miracle on the computing governed by its logic of analysis. It is no miracle. It has to have a certain process to know something has to be a knowledge. It has to have. Now, you can perceive an object that can be analyzed as a cat because you have a previous knowledge that corresponds that analyzed data to cat. You can find a match like a Google fucking search, okay? You have a previous knowledge. When you search in the Google search bar, cat, and it makes in the search result by the Wikipedia, and go to the image section, have a lot of varieties of cat, because humans made, when searches a cat, there's a cat. It is the computer, the being that is made by human. While going computing artificial fucking intelligence, it has to apply that same logic, but it really what do we call as a computer? It really has single advantage, the accuracy of its processing. We do record on the fucking named iPhone because it is not an iPhone, but it's memory that really matters, okay? You store your voice record because compared to the fucking human brain, it can record even though it is a binary code that it cannot generate as precise as human voice does. It can record a rough data that it really is accurate, having no doubt and debate on the perfectcy, its success rate, because it is always in remain of 100%. That's the reason of why we do store and process all important data in the name of fucking binary code. It is no matter for being a binary, but it has an accurate logic to process. What it only has as a single advantage of being a computer is just about that accuracy. No other structure it has a real advantage over the human. And it has a computing power. As 8 billions of human brain is converged into, 8 billion count of CPU and GPU is converged into a powerful machine that, compared to the book as a low quality medium of communication, that even though you can read the articles and books written by Leonardo da Vinci and Aristotle, but you can really read its surface. You cannot communicate under its brain because, as I always think and realize that even though I do read a book, there are a lot of unknown knowledges that are not written. It is stored in the subconsciousness of each and every brain of others. What do they really write is just a tiny fraction of its entire knowledge. So on that, it same applies to the Aristotelian and Leonardo da Vinci story. It really has a lot of knowledge, but it really cannot tantamount to the accurate logic structure of computer where it connects its data by the medium of electromagnetic wave from its frequency from down to the up, making a worm-like wave from 0 to 1. It conveys its information to the another receiver and transponder, emitting and receiving a signal in the speed of fucking light speed, and during which process it has no loss of data, and it goes in the fucking long range where the atmosphere can hinder the perfectly accuracy of medium it can go through, been dispersed by the hampering of atoms. It can detour and just block the external environment for its data is only transmitted and received. It is called optic fucking fiber optic cable. For that communication method, the one computer to the another as a CPU to GPU and the vice fucking versa into another 200 millions of CPU counts and the memory, its communication rate is just 100. It acts like a single organism, okay? By that, data center is not only just filled with the fucking CPU cluster, like a cache, like a city, but city can make its job function because there is a lot of communication line that goes through on that data center. Without the communication line, what only can data center compute is only what it had before that cutting off of line happened. So it makes its advantage over human because of two aspects. One, accuracy of its processing. Number two, its consummacy of its communication. Well, that is all. Even though can the one make a robot made of computer, but it really acts by the logic of binary, which is just a fucking bullshit, and it cannot repair its body itself. Even though the accuracy of human operation goes further down compared to that it cannot be even compared to, its unit of computing as a precision of operation really surpasses any other. Reason of why human is still in existence. Now, designing a body made of structures of molecules is just a normal job What really matters is a computing unit, a brain. The importance of brain surpasses all other fucking parts of body. There is a lot of pre-existing knowledge, and when you do see an image of car, it has generally 4 wheels. It can have 12 wheels or 50 wheels, but in a commercial car, it has about a weight of 1 ton to 2 ton, and it has a window. What are the, and is it a shape and a curve in its roof and a engine to the front or down, backside? So what constituent of information really define the object of being a car, to be a car? You analyze as a fucking dictionary what information really logic by the logic constitute for defining an object to be a car, for its function, for its purpose to make, how and why it is created, how being its technology, why being its purpose, for its essence down to the logic, and you analyze what the by what informations are constituted to be a car, you can understand how the knowledge is created. You see, on the road, riding a car and seeing a car in a traffic in a city, in a normal city, and you say there rides by the 4 wheels and steering, control, and having an engine either be made of combustion or coil motor, or even made of the nuclear fission. In this power source, there exists in the gear to convert it, the direction of force to the wheels do exist, and the storage unit be located, whether it be located front or back, engine front or back, or even the center of it. That information is what defines to be a car for its generic shape, for its average height not surpasses of commercial car, that surpasses 2 meter, and its length not surpasses over 3 or 4 meters. And when be compared to the large vehicles spanning over 12, 40 wheels and overweight 200 tons of vehicle, its purpose is the same, but having a difference for its operating purpose is to lift it up, to convey the weight. So you have an analysis for what information defined a certain object to be a car. So you do have it. And when you see an image of car, average tools, okay, for discerning from your own eye its height, weight, color, shape, seeing a wheel and going down to the road, from those constituting near adjacent related informations that have a relevance on the logic for constituting that car, you apply the tools of mathematics, science to analyze those color, shape, weight, X, Y, Z, and go see through its constituents, parts that make up the machine of a car. And having a wheel, it rolls, it goes. From that related information, you can really discern a car be a car. And that happens because the calculation upon that, the measurement inflicted onto that object is made. So mobilizing a general tools from the weight to XYZ and see through its appearance as a color and the shape is really applied to all. Oh, bloody fucking hell. How can we learn now? No question about how do we learn, because we can. So the question is, how can we learn? You see a lot of sentences made up of a code, from interpreting that from code to the corresponding information and following the instructions of relations that are written by the name of paper and book. You have to follow as to understand its content written on them. So it is just a following process by that written logic. And when it makes a chain of it, you have to make a chain of it to understand. It is just a transferring a knowledge from book to your brain, and you have to follow on that exact chain as to analyze it. So it literally, and because you read a book that you do not know the content of it, really is, its chain of connections are new for you. Those connections are unknown. It is a process of acquiring new knowledge, meaning on your brain, the networks, the sphere of your network hasn't made a connection that will be discovered on the content of book. When you read that exact content, which requires a new connection to make, and as to you, do you understand on that? Analyze and go to the next phrase, next sentence. You have to make a connection on live. Like we make a broadcast by the name of on air, you have to make its operation on live. When to see the image of brain in live, which it learns simultaneously, you can really see the connections for stretching up, making a branch ramifications of slight and tiny line goes to the corresponding information as to connect, reinforce new connections. That's the reason of why the reading speed goes faster when compared to when you read and you have read 1,000 books when to the 10,000 of books, because you have at least 10, 20 times of multiplied knowledge compared to the 1,000 count to the 10,000 count. On next book, as simultaneously go operate, the computer that has more knowledge can really understand faster, because the new book, even though it is named as new, the computer that has 1,000 and 10,000, the 10,000 can really understand more faster, because the book contains a knowledge that is known to the 10,000 boy compared to the 1,000 boy. On the known knowledge that is already that has already been processed, its portion of it grows as the computer learns. So compared to the 100, compared to the accumulation of 100 information to 1,000 and adding more zeros behind it, 100,000, million, fucking billion, trillion counts as it goes, the speed at which the information is processed, immediately analyzed, goes ever faster, because it knows what it is on that new information. It has a previous connection that was already made, and you confirm it. Just as your knowledge grows, the portion that you have previously as a known knowledge grows. In average, on every information is encountered. Well, that's the reason of why newborn, just born babies do sleep a lot of hours a day. Children, a lot of hours a day, and you go elder, you only have to sleep 6 hours. Half of the newborn boys, because as you made a lot of learnings during which process of lifetime, you really already and almost know a lot of informations you encounter during the day that you really have less requirement to process, create new connections and dots. And that requirement of resource for mobilizing that goes immediately down, shrinking over time of accumulation, that you really have less requirement to have a sleep to make confirm constructed connection on the sleeping time. So, it's just a process. When you do see an image of eraser, by what material is it made of to erase, and what it can erase? It cannot erase the ink of ball pen, but it can erase made of the graphites, coal-like graphites, as to corresponding to pencil that it can erase, made of rubber, and its color doesn't matter, but its shape as normally being circular, rectangular, or square, and its average weight not weighing over 10-20 grams, has to be used by a small human hand, and its elasticity, by the property of rubber, it can be bent unlike the pencil. Those are the attributes that, when combined as to be proposed for a single object, what constitutes an object named eraser. Okay, so as to analyze and confirm that it is an eraser, relevant criterions of data has to be mobilized onto the object to analyze. Searching for what constituents do comprise that object being that. As long as you find out what are the constituents of that analyzed object, analyze is finished and you acquire the knowledge. And for that, the process of analyzation really creates and connects either the pre-existing knowledge or just new dot. Son of a fucking... And when the one makes an experiment by not just seeing an end of the image of the object of eraser, but an experiment that how can it work? What the essence of that object would be just another kind of ball that has to be thrown. No. You just try it. And at some point, you rub it on the surface, okay? And at some point, you burn it Okay? And you find out there is a specific smell that is connected to the smell of rubber, whose smell, when burned by fire, that defines that is made of a rubber. So, when you do have an experiment by throwing it, and it has an elasticity. When you throw an eraser to the wall, it pushes again to the direction of original point of throwing, because it has an elasticity by the attribute of rubber. And at some point, you try to rub it as to abrase that surface and go to more smaller shape of rubber. And at some point, you try to burn the eraser and you can smell. Oh, you can smell. And you smell that you find out that it's smell, made of that molecules are in match with the smell of rubber. Through that process, by experimenting on that, you can find out that it's made of rubber, because you have a pre-existing knowledge about rubber when it burns and it matches as certain that is rubber. You find out it has a benting, can be bent, since you find out the property of rubber from the burning process, and have an elasticity on its subject, which corroborates, substantiates the property of being a rubber, which you find out from another experiment that supports that it's made of rubber. So you smell the molecules that consist of that when it burns, when the rubber burns and transforms its combination as a property. So you have to have a sensor for detecting a certain molecule of the around the floating air that is transformed from the property of original rubber to the process of burning. It is transformed as to find a match. And when it burns, goes down, and it is just a rather simple one. It's detecting, smell, and finding out what it is. Meaning, bloody, certain combination of molecule that is processed from rubber to burn is detected. And you just search it like a Google fucking search. Molecule. That information is transformed from the molecule to the electric or other chemical signal. And you search on the network and find a match. How? How? It is possible because it can. So, on the essence, on the property of combination of molecule, making a neural fucking network, there is a clue. There is an answer for how to do that. Humans are striving by its own brain, and the fucking combination experiment of fucking system called nature made of fucking one. And humans are fucking trying to understand how it was made. Isn't that ironic? So, how to search? It's a fucking crazy. 지랄을 하네 또. Now, from the disability for storing and 연병을 해요. 적 같은 개 나가리 개 씨발 새끼. Storing the information in its exact form for the disability, absence of which makes a lot of wasting of fucking resource. Since I do have right in front of my fucking eyes, I do speak right now, 20 counts of thick. No. Around all, 50 counts of thick. Average page? No, spanning from 300-400 pages to 2,000 pages of English fucking dictionary. And as long as like a fucking computer as a translator that is in Google fucking translator and Apple translator, it has Spanish, German, French, all fucking bloody fucking English. Your disability really proves what knowledge you have, what capability you have on the analysis upon you executed by aliens. And aliens, you see, you have a lot of records as a form of paper, which means you cannot store those informations on your fucking brain, that it has to be reiterated as soon as you forget.